Every year, at least that I've worked with the coalition, we owe so much to the bravery of people who are willing to come and speak, folks who are trans-identified or gender nonconforming identified, and parents, partners, people who are willing to put themselves out there and say, this won't stand, this isn't fair, this is wrong, and this is why. And it's I think it's a tremendous thing to ask of people and ask of a community to do that year after year. But it really makes a difference. Legislators listen.
It's something that everyone should be proud of. Mm-hmm. I mean, hiding is not the answer. Why should we give up to and hide?
Well, and as Tambria pointed out, this is Independence Day weekend.
Right.
And we do have soldiers overseas who are fighting for the freedom and equality of the citizens of this country. We are the citizens of this country too, and we're entitled to equality and freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we are. And we also have many peace activists who also...
We have many peace activists who are also, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so we want to be sort of involved in that. And yeah, we are definitely out there, obviously, on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully there will be others that will join us. But we are actually, I think, sort of blessed in where we are as far as people like our legislators. We have legislators in our area, anyway, that have been very supportive. Certainly, some of them, like Andy Maynard, is a big supporter, and who has committed to coming on our show if I can ever get Taylor to call me back. But a lot of our legislators have committed to come on the show, and certainly they, I think, generally, and we saw a lot of them at certainly at Hartford Pride. Dan Malloy had committed.
Well, at least the blue ones.
Yeah, right.
He's supposed to be getting back to me. I spoke to one of his representatives yesterday, and
Nancy Glassman from the Ned Lamont campaign. They're supposed to get back in touch with us. Linda McMahon hasn't returned phone calls yet.
Well, but that's the whole point, is tried. And I'll just sort of twist on another avenue is, for many years, the state of Connecticut would not write a Pride Day proclamation that included the word transgender or bisexual.
Oh, wow.
And so whenever they had Pride Day, Roland would court Gay and Lesbian Pride Day. And I remember back, I was part of the Pride Committee then, and I had learned about that. In fact, Roland had announced through his spokesperson, Noella Ford, that how could he put a proclamation for something that he couldn't explain to his second-year class? And of course, many of us in the community said, we have children. Children get this. That's not the issue. Yeah. But what we actually did is we actually did an action where we basically had a large consortium of organizations. I think we had about 20 or 30 that basically said, we developed a Pride Proclamation and we made it a truly inclusive one. It said lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex. And Roland was the governor at that time. And he refused to sign the proclamation for that Pride year. And it became a week before Pride was going to happen. And I ended up getting the proclamation specialist on the phone, talking to him, understanding why, getting the reasons why they were refusing to. And one of the things Roland said is, well, I think gay and they were saying through the spokesperson, gay and lesbian is inclusive. And my comment was, well, I didn't know that Roland was gay man, because who's he to say for us that that's inclusive terminology? But the reality is, we then did a call-in where we had people call in, people email, people fax the governor's office. That was on Thursday. The following Monday, I had a phone call from Kevin Nerdzik, who was the assistant to Roland, executive assistant, saying the governor will meet with you. And we actually had Becky and John Gleason from PFLAG Hartford. We had our Combination from the bisexual community, and I to meet with Roland. And we actually met with Dean Pagani, who was his chief of staff at that time. And one of the things Dean Pagani said to me is, well, how do you define transgender? And I knew he wanted me to go to the stereotypes, drag queen, transvestite. And I basically said to him, 85% of Connecticut's transgender. And he looked at me kind of odd and said, what do you mean? I said, think about it. If you look around the schools, go to a mall, look at the streets, how many people look like Barbie dolls or Kens or G.I. Joes? Many, many people transgress gender, albeit different extents, but many people transgress gender. What is transgressing gender? Transgender. You know, we all know in the trans community that that's a very volatile word. But for talking to people who aren't familiar with this, and the next day we ended up having the proclamation. And where I'm going with that is, it was a Republican governor that ended up passing it, and he included intersex, which is, I think, the first governor to have done that in the Pride Day proclamation at that point. Wow. And we do. We actually, in the bill, we have Republican legislators who have actually been very excellent spokespersons for this bill. Because, as you said, we're lucky. In Connecticut, 80% of the people are good people. You know, maybe more than that. But you always know you have a few that's always hard to move. But most people are good in Connecticut, and the legislators are the same thing.
Yeah, we've only run into a few small groups of people that want the laws of the state to reflect their religious beliefs. Most people have that sort of live and let live attitude.
Truly, Connecticut, in my opinion, has been a really great place to be trans. You know, I want some things to change, but
it could be better.
It could be,
but good is good.
Good is good, and honestly, there are a lot of places that I would not have wanted to transition, and Connecticut has been pretty good to me. Not without problems, but I haven't been dragged behind a truck. You know,
no, exactly.
And there are places in the country where I would be afraid that could happen. So.
And just to kind of go piggyback a little bit off of what Jerry Marie was saying, this idea of inclusion and about the way we define transgender, you know, we all have a gender identity and we all express our genders, right? So whether or not we identify as transgender or gender nonconforming, however we identify, we need to be protected. And that's what's so important about this language and why I think often, I know when I'm talking to like the LGB identified community, and I get some pushback, especially maybe like generationally, there's a little bit of resistance. It's really important to never losing sight of how much discrimination people who are transgender identified are subject to everywhere, but to kind of also, widen the, cast a wider net and just talk a little bit about gender identity and expression. Because we all have it, So, and as Robin McCallan from True Colors, who's an amazing advocate,
she is great.
I think 80% of the nuggets of wisdom that I say are things I heard from her. One of the things that she always says is that, a law like this passing, it pushes the boundaries of what is acceptable in terms of gender expression for all of us. And her point is really similar to the one Jerry Marie was making, which is, look around. Who is not transgressing gender or transcending gender even in at least some tiny way at some point, right?
Our society has very, very strict ideas about what male and female are. And when you start to point out that, well,
you're all wrong.
So-and-so is straight and a little transgender. It starts to make sense to people. When the last time we had Diana Lombardi, she was telling one story about a woman that got arrested when she walked into the women's room in Grand Central Terminal because the cop that arrested her thought she was a guy. This was, and there are others. There's lots of other stories of, a guy at work that gets fired because he's too effeminate, but straight. That his gender expression, his mannerisms, his appearance has nothing to do with real threatening things. Somebody didn't like the way he looked. Somebody didn't like the way he was acting.
And with that, one of the days of remembrances we had a number of years ago, one of the people who was murdered was an African-American straight man. And what happened is, and this is hard to believe, it truly is, but he actually was holding a purse for a friend.
Yes.
And so she went into the restroom or did something, and somebody literally killed him. I mean, they basically attacked him, and he died subsequently from it. And it is. People feel that, and it comes across, this whole concept, well, that's disposable people, because we know that. Ethan St. Pierre, he's talked about it very eloquently, that even when a trans person is murdered, getting the police, getting the system to recognize that this is a person. We had that actually in New Haven. We had a transgender woman, Jessica Mercado, and she was murdered in her apartment. That morning, I remember it was a Saturday morning, I got some emails, and to alert to this. And I checked the New Haven Register, and it basically said transgender